In a climate marked by geopolitical tensions and humanitarian concerns, the United States has stepped in to urge both India and Pakistan to refrain from escalating their ongoing conflicts. This diplomatic intervention comes amid rising tensions between the two nations, which have historically struggled with territorial disputes and military confrontations. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is expected to initiate calls with leaders from both countries, emphasizing the importance of dialogue and restraint to avoid further conflict. The situation between India and Pakistan has been particularly volatile, with recent incidents exacerbating the already strained relations. The U.S. government, recognizing the potential for escalation, has expressed its commitment to fostering peace and stability in the region. In statements to the press, Rubio underscored the U.S. belief that continued dialogue is essential for both nations. "We encourage both India and Pakistan to engage in constructive conversations to address their differences," he stated, highlighting the U.S.'s role as a mediator in the long-standing conflict. The background of these tensions includes a series of military skirmishes and political disagreements which have historically led to serious humanitarian crises. As the U.S. navigates its foreign policy objectives, it remains critical for American leaders to balance their interests in South Asia while promoting stability and cooperation. In a separate but equally pressing matter, Secretary Rubio has recently found himself at the center of controversy regarding the removal of U.S. citizen children during immigration enforcement actions. Reports have surfaced detailing the deportation of families, including young children, to Honduras under questionable circumstances. Critics argue that the Trump administration's immigration policies are increasingly draconian, stripping families of their rights and jeopardizing the well-being of vulnerable children. During a recent interview with NBC News, Rubio addressed the criticisms, asserting that the U.S.-born children accompanied their undocumented mothers voluntarily. Their mothers, who were illegally in this country, were deported. The children went with their mothers, Rubio explained, attempting to clarify the administration's stance. However, attorneys representing the families have contested Rubio's assertions, claiming that the mothers were coerced into decisions without proper legal guidance or support. The American Civil Liberties Union (ACLU) has been vocal about these cases, revealing that one of the deported children suffers from a rare form of cancer and was taken without access to necessary medical treatment. This raises significant ethical questions about the administration's immigration enforcement practices, particularly regarding the treatment of citizens and their rights when entangled in deportation processes. In light of these developments, a federal judge has scheduled a hearing to examine the circumstances surrounding these deportations, expressing strong suspicion that the process lacked due diligence. As the legal battle unfolds, the implications of these policies on immigrant families continue to attract national scrutiny, fueling debates about human rights and the responsibilities of the government toward its citizens. As we look forward, the U.S. government's diplomatic interventions in South Asia and its immigration policies will likely remain at the forefront of political discourse. The outcomes of these situations could have lasting impacts not only on international relations but also on domestic immigration reform, with tensions high and the stakes even higher. How these issues are navigated will be critical in shaping the future landscape of U.S. foreign and domestic policy. In a surprising move that has sparked controversy within the U.S. government, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced the termination of the Women, Peace and Security (WPS) program, an initiative originally established during Donald Trump's first term. The program aimed to enhance the role of women in diplomatic and national security efforts, a goal that garnered bipartisan support when it was signed into law in 2017. Hegseth, who has made headlines for his contentious views on gender roles in the military, characterized the WPS program as a woke, divisive / social justice / Biden initiative that distracts military leaders from their primary mission, warfighting. WPS is yet another initiative pushed by feminists and left-wing activists, he asserted, claiming that it burdens troops and is met with disdain from service members. His remarks drew criticism from various quarters, especially given the program's roots in bipartisan legislation championed by key figures in Trump's administration, including Kristi Noem and Marco Rubio. The WPS program was designed to ensure women's participation in peace negotiations and security efforts, reflecting a broader recognition of their roles in mitigating conflict and fostering stability. In announcing the program's end, Hegseth stated that while the Department of Defense would comply with the minimum of WPS required by statute, he would seek to eliminate the program entirely in future budget discussions. His declaration was met with immediate backlash, particularly from Democratic lawmakers who questioned his fitness for the role and highlighted the growing divide within the administration over issues of gender and inclusion. Critics of Hegseth's decision pointed out that the WPS program had been celebrated as a significant achievement during Trump's presidency, with the former president himself promoting it as part of his record of accomplishments benefiting women. The program was based on a UN Security Council resolution that aimed to ensure women's involvement in peacebuilding efforts, a principle backed by various studies indicating that peace agreements are more sustainable when women are included in the negotiation process. Moreover, the abrupt dismantling of the WPS initiative raises concerns about the future of similar programs aimed at promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion within the military. Hegseth's actions align with a broader trend in the current administration to roll back initiatives perceived as woke, sparking fears that valuable contributions to national security may be sacrificed in the name of ideological purity. In the midst of this upheaval, President Trump expressed continued confidence in Hegseth, describing him as a talented guy and expressing hope that he would prove to be an effective defense secretary. However, Hegseth's recent comments and actions have led to intensified scrutiny of his leadership, particularly following revelations of his use of the Signal app to share sensitive military plans with unauthorized individuals, including family members. As the political landscape evolves, the implications of Hegseth's decision to end the WPS program may reverberate far beyond the Pentagon, potentially influencing future legislation and the broader discourse surrounding women's roles in national security. Observers will be closely watching how this controversy unfolds, particularly as it intersects with ongoing debates about diversity and inclusion in the military and government at large. The coming months will likely reveal whether Hegseth's controversial stance will resonate with the administration's base or provoke further pushback from both political allies and opponents. In a recent visit to Texas, U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. stirred controversy by asserting that chronic diseases like autism and diabetes warrant more attention than the ongoing measles outbreak in the state. Speaking at a press conference at Texas A&M University in College Station, Kennedy downplayed the severity of the outbreak, which has seen over 663 cases reported across 26 counties, including 2 fatalities among school-aged children. He emphasized that only 4 measles-related deaths have occurred in the U.S. over the past 2 decades, 2 of which were in Texas this year. Kennedy's remarks come amid mounting criticism regarding his handling of the measles outbreak, which has primarily impacted Texas. He suggested that media coverage of measles is disproportionate, stating, "Every child who gets measles gets a headline," and reminisced about a time when millions of cases went unreported. This comment reflects a broader trend of skepticism towards vaccination and public health initiatives associated with Kennedy, who has long been a controversial figure in the realm of vaccine discourse. While public health officials maintain that the most effective way to prevent measles is through the recommended 2 doses of the measles, mumps, rubella MMR vaccine, Kennedy has drawn attention for promoting alternative treatments and questioning the link between measles and the deaths reported this year. He highlighted the federal support Texas is receiving to manage the outbreak, which has cost the state over $4.5 million since the first case was detected in late January. Kennedy noted, "We're working very closely with the governor of Texas, with the public health officials in Texas, signaling an effort to address both public health and vaccination skepticism." However, the response from health officials has been cautious. Despite Kennedy's optimistic outlook on the slowing of cases in certain areas, they remain vigilant about the situation, particularly in regions like El Paso, where new cases are rapidly increasing. Laura Anton, spokesperson for the Texas Department of State Health Services, emphasized that trends in infectious diseases require careful monitoring, especially following periods of increased travel such as the recent Easter holiday. Adding to the complex landscape of public health discussions, Kennedy is also planning a significant 4-year public relations campaign titled Take Back Your Health, which could cost upwards of $20 million. This initiative aims to address chronic health issues by encouraging healthier lifestyle choices among Americans. Critics, however, caution that without addressing socioeconomic barriers such as limited access to nutritious food, the effectiveness of such campaigns may be limited. Kennedy's tenure as health secretary has not been without its controversies. His sister Kerry Kennedy publicly expressed her concerns regarding his fitness for the role, aligning with criticisms from various public health advocates. She stated, "I think he is not an appropriate HHS secretary," echoing sentiments expressed by late-night host John Oliver, who lambasted Kennedy for spreading misinformation about vaccines and autism. As the measles outbreak continues, the tensions between public health policy, vaccine advocacy, and individual autonomy remain at the forefront of the national conversation. The future of public health initiatives under Kennedy's leadership will likely depend on how effectively his administration can navigate these challenges while restoring public trust in vaccination and health guidelines. With the ongoing developments in Texas, the implications of Kennedy's policies on both chronic disease awareness and infectious disease management will be closely watched. In a move that has raised alarms among journalists and press freedom advocates, Attorney General Pam Bondi has announced a tightening of regulations regarding government leaks, a decision that critics argue could stifle investigative journalism and curtail the public's right to know. The memo, which rescinds key protections put in place during the Biden administration, signals a potential shift in the balance between national security and the freedom of the press, a delicate interplay that has been a contentious issue in American politics for decades. Late last week, Bondi's memorandum effectively dismantled provisions that had previously restricted the Justice Department's ability to issue subpoenas, court orders, or warrants targeting journalists who receive or publish classified information. This change comes at a time when investigations into leaks have been rampant as the government grapples with sensitive information being disclosed to the media. According to Gabe Rotman, Vice President of Policy at the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, the memo raises concerns about the chilling effect it could have on news reporting that serves the public interest. The Bondi memo appears to have rescinded a specific provision protecting journalists from Justice Department subpoenas, he noted, emphasizing the historical implications such a policy could have on press freedom. The roots of the current debate stretch back to the Nixon administration, when the Justice Department aggressively pursued journalists for their sources, culminating in a public outcry that led to the establishment of the original news media guidelines. These guidelines were designed to protect journalists from overreach by the government. Over the years, these protections have been expanded to include safeguards against the unauthorized pursuit of reporters' records. However, the recent memo indicates a reversal of this trend, potentially allowing the Justice Department to more easily target journalists in leak investigations. Absent this protection, the Justice Department could argue that a journalist is in possession of information relevant to an investigation which could justify the use of subpoenas or court orders, Rotman explained. This is particularly concerning given the historical precedent of aggressive leak prosecutions, which reached a peak during the Obama administration and have continued into subsequent administrations. Bondi's memo appears to align with a broader bipartisan trend of prosecuting government employees and contractors for leaking information, a practice that many believe undermines the vital function of a free press. Simultaneously, Bondi made headlines by visiting a Drug Enforcement Administration (DEA) laboratory where she gained first-hand insight into the ongoing battle against fentanyl trafficking. During her tour, Bondi witnessed the alarming efficiency with which dangerous drugs are manufactured and highlighted the staggering statistics surrounding the fentanyl crisis. Since the beginning of the year, authorities have seized enough fentanyl to potentially kill 119 million Americans, underlining the urgent need for effective measures to combat this public health crisis. At the DEA lab, Bondi observed the work of chemists engaging in reverse engineering the methods employed by drug cartels to produce fentanyl. That's how easy it is to kill Americans, she remarked, emphasizing the need for continued vigilance in the fight against illicit drugs. The meeting at the lab coincided with National Fentanyl Awareness Day, a reminder of the toll that synthetic opioids have taken on American communities. As the dual narratives of press freedom and drug enforcement unfold, the implications of Bondi's actions are profound. The potential resurgence of aggressive leak investigations could stifle journalistic inquiry at a time when the public needs transparency more than ever. The ongoing fentanyl crisis further complicates the conversation as the government grapples with how to effectively address drug trafficking while ensuring that investigative journalism can thrive. Looking ahead, the legal landscape surrounding press freedoms and government accountability remains uncertain. Advocates are calling for Congress to pass a federal shield law to protect journalists from having to disclose their sources, a measure that would provide much-needed clarity and protection in the face of shifting governmental policies. As the boundaries of press freedom and national security continue to be tested, the outcomes of these debates will shape the future of journalism in America, underscoring the delicate balance between safeguarding national interests and upholding the principles of a free and open society. In the backdrop of escalating trade tensions between the United States and China, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has issued a stark warning regarding the potential job losses in the world's second-largest economy. During a press conference at the White House, Bessent stated that if the current tariff levels of 145% are maintained, China could see the loss of up to 10 million jobs very quickly. Even in a scenario where the U.S. were to lower tariffs slightly, he cautioned that the job loss could still reach 5 million. Bessent emphasized the structural imbalance in trade, pointing out, "We are the deficit country. They sell almost 5 times more goods to us than we sell to them. So the onus will be on them to take off these tariffs. They're unsustainable for them." This assertion underscores the complexities of the trade relationship between the U.S. and China, where the U.S. has long expressed concern over its trade deficits. The remarks come amidst a backdrop of uncertainty and confusion regarding ongoing trade talks. Bessent refrained from clarifying whether the U.S. is actively negotiating with China. Despite contradictory statements from President Trump suggesting that discussions are underway. "I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty again of who's talking to whom," Bessent remarked, adding, "I believe for the Chinese these tariffs are unsustainable." While tensions with China remain a focal point, Bessent also highlighted positive developments in U.S. trade relations with other countries. He indicated that the U.S. is nearing a deal with India and could see progress with South Korea and Japan as well. They have been the most forthcoming in terms of doing the deals, he noted about India, reflecting an optimistic outlook for collaboration in the region. Market responses have been mixed, with Bessent acknowledging that institutional investors have reacted with panic amid the trade negotiations while individual investors have remained steadfast. "I think the aperture of uncertainty will be narrowing. And as we start moving forward announcing deals, then there will be certainty," he stated, although he cautioned that certainty is not necessarily a good thing in negotiating. The trade landscape is further complicated by the administration's recent tariff policies announced on April 2, which not only imposed steep tariffs on Chinese goods but also saw reciprocal tariffs from China on U.S. products. This tit-for-tat escalation has led to increased scrutiny of the economic implications both domestically and globally. As the U.S. administration marks its second 100 days in office, Bessent's insights shed light on the high stakes associated with the current trade environment. Looking ahead, the administration's ability to navigate these turbulent waters will be crucial not just for the U.S. economy but also for international economic stability. The potential for significant job losses in China adds urgency to resolving these trade disputes, as both nations grapple with the implications of their policies. Future developments in trade negotiations could reshape economic relations, but for now the focus remains on the pivotal role that tariffs play in this ongoing saga. In a significant development for the U.S. automotive industry, the Trump administration has announced a plan to ease tariffs for American automakers, a move that promises to reshape the landscape of the automotive market.
Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick confirmed on April 29, 2025 that the administration is implementing tariff relief for vehicles built in the U.S., though tariffs will still apply to foreign-made vehicles.
This announcement comes at a time when the automotive sector is grappling with the implications of recent tariff hikes and the ongoing volatility in trade negotiations.
We're providing tariff relief for all U.S.-built vehicles and those cars finished in the U.S., Lutnick stated during a press conference. He elaborated that manufacturers would receive a 15% offset against the value of vehicles imported for parts, a strategic move to encourage local production and reduce dependency on foreign supply chains. The phased implementation over 3 years aims to give automakers the time needed to adjust their operations and build robust supply networks within the country. This easing of tariffs is particularly timely as the automotive industry has been under significant pressure due to escalating costs and supply chain disruptions exacerbated by the previous tariff regime. With many manufacturers struggling to maintain profit margins, Lutnick's announcement has been met with a wave of optimism across Wall Street as stocks in automotive companies surged following the news. The context of this announcement is crucial.
Just weeks earlier, President Trump had implemented widespread tariff hikes on a majority of global imports,
which had raised tensions and uncertainty among business leaders and consumers alike.
Lutnick remarked, "The uncertainty around tariffs has sparked volatility in the stock market and declining confidence among business leaders and consumers, highlighting the administration's awareness of the precariousness of the current economic climate." In tandem with the tariff adjustments, Lutnick hinted at progress in international trade negotiations, suggesting that the administration has reached a preliminary agreement with an unnamed country. "I have a deal done, but I need to wait for their prime minister and their parliament to give its approval," he noted without disclosing further details. This announcement, while vague, has further fueled speculation about potential trade deals with countries like Japan, South Korea, and India, which have been identified as potential partners for future agreements. However, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent tempered expectations during a subsequent interview,
emphasizing that nothing is finalized until President Trump makes an official announcement. "I'm not going to get ahead of the president.
We should wait to hear from President Trump over the next couple of days," he stated, reflecting the administration's cautious approach amid ongoing negotiations.
As the administration navigates these complex trade waters, the impact on the U.S. automotive industry could be profound.
The promise of easing tariffs may not only bolster domestic production but also encourage foreign manufacturers to invest in U.S. operations, thereby enhancing the overall competitiveness of American automakers. Analysts suggest that if the administration successfully secures trade agreements while providing relief to the auto sector, it could lead to a revitalization of American manufacturing and a more resilient economy.
Looking ahead,
the automotive sector and broader market will be closely monitoring the administration's next moves. The interplay between tariff policy and trade negotiations will undoubtedly shape the future of both American manufacturing and international relations, making it imperative for stakeholders to stay informed as developments unfold.